Problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone in progression, it's all that I wanted. A foe in affection, I summon and dub it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to SportsGamer, and welcome to the start of a brand new ECL season as we're about to kick off another campaign of NHL esports action. My name is Tugi, and this is the Wraparound, the show where we cover all the ongoing events with not just the ECL, but everything going on here at SportsGamer, including the return of yours truly after a season away. I unfortunately had to miss out on everything that the ECL 24 spring campaign brought us, and there was a lot that affected, of course, not only that season and how it played out, but now how things are looking heading into this season, and we're going to try to cover all of it. It is a lot, but first and foremost, important things to remember now that the schedule is underway. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we will be here 1945 CET. That is 1:45 p.m. Eastern for those of you on the North American side of things that follow along throughout the season. And before we get into talking about everything that's going on within these individual seasons, we have some housekeeping to do. And the first thing to talk about, right? I think it's always going to be the first thing to talk about when you're beginning a new season. What are the rules? And for these players, there is predominantly one thing at the forefront here in regards to the rules, and that is, do we have any banned abilities heading in to a new season? It's always a topic of conversation, balancing issues perhaps. What are you going to do on a season-by-season basis? And for this season, it is worth noting that we do have an unsurprising set of banned abilities, and it's, of course, the gold and silver versions of Big Tipper, which is very disappointing for me as someone who loves to abuse that particular ability in EASHL. But both gold and silver Big Tipper banned in this competition for Winter 25. Although, as always, we like to keep the conversation going as to how things should be handled. Whenever you have that ability to customize a build, there's always going to be certain abilities, certain traits that are a little bit more powerful than others, but we love to have that conversation going. What abilities were not, expelled for the season that maybe should have been? Should Big Tipper have still been fine to use in the first place? Should we consider a no abilities season this upcoming spring? Perhaps a format where you can only have one ability used once, one player type per position. There's so much that could be done. And of course, we want to hear from everybody, of course, the viewers here, talking to you guys right now, whether or not that be the players themselves. It's always going to be a debate of what is the best way to make a season the most interesting. But again, for this season, outside of the rule book, which of course you can read on sportsgamer.gg, the primary thing to keep in mind is that Big Tipper has been banned for this season. Now, as mentioned, we do have a lot to get to, and that does not just include me ranting and raving about every individual league that we have here within the ECL. It also includes hearing the rants and the raves of a broadcast partner here that we have by the name of B Major, and Brandon was able to get word with a very important person for this season. Every season, every campaign, we'd like to name a cover athlete for the season, and this time out, it ended up being one Sooth 98 of Unwanted. We'll be talking about that team in full a little bit later on, but for now, you get to hear from Brandon as he was able to get a chat in there with Sooth, with Stefan a little bit earlier on. So let's throw it over to them now.
I'm joined by the ECL 25 winter season cover gamer, Soot. Soot, thank you so much for taking a few moments to join me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I mean, first and foremost, congratulations, the cover gamer for the ECL 25 winter season. I got to ask you, man, how does it feel to be the face of this upcoming season here in the ECL?
It feels really good. I also got like a feeling that I messaged the wrong guy. So it felt a bit random, but I'm honored about it.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, you definitely are deserving face. A lot of history in the ECL, plenty of great seasons as well. So definitely worthy to be the head man for this upcoming season. I want to take it all the way back to your roots, if you don't mind. How did you first get into playing the NHL series?
Just always been a big hockey fan. Played it in real life and always played the game on Xbox and PlayStation. And I started maybe in NHL 12 and to maybe NHL 20. I didn't know about the online things of the game, so I just grinded some franchise mode for those 8-9 years. That's how it started, I guess.
I'm sure he's somewhere watching this right now, and if he is, I just know that Tugi absolutely geeked out hearing that you started out as a franchise player, someone that's known to be one of the bigger franchise guys in the community. So I know he absolutely loved and appreciated that answer right now. I know you mentioned you kind of started out in NHL 12 and then really focused on the franchise mode. What was your introduction in the competitive NHL, and more specifically, how did you get into playing here at SportsGamer?
It actually was from a former teammate of mine named Bolas, so shout out to him. We just started talking and playing together, started in Lite, and now we are in Elite, or I am.
I'm sure he wasn't aware then that he would end up having a future cover gamer, that he would get into the league. But, now you look forward to this upcoming season, play getting started for the regular season in just a few days' time. What are you looking forward to about this Winter 25 season that's coming up?
I'm just looking forward to playing competitive games. It's kind of boring to play those offline, off-season games, so just nice to have something on the line.
Yeah, the stakes definitely going to be risen here a little bit in short order. So one more question for you. Don't want to take up too much of your time. Obviously, you and Unwanted coming off of a pretty good ECL 24 campaign, a pair of playoff appearances, nearly made it to the semifinals last season, just narrowly lost against Strikers in that 7-game quarterfinal series. How are you feeling about yourself, your game, and your team at Unwanted heading into this Winter 25 season coming up?
I have a really good feeling. I feel like we have pretty high potential, and the vibes in the team is really good. They are almost too good at times when we can get like laughing attacks. So we just need to try to have some focus and win as many games as possible. And then we should be fine, hopefully.
Hey, it's all about having fun, right? You want to win, but it's good to see that the spirits are high over there at Unwanted. A very good squad you guys got. Excited to see what you end up doing this season. So thank you again one more time for taking a few minutes to chat with me. Best of luck to you guys this season, and congratulations once again on being this season's cover gamer.
Thank you.
A big thank you to Brandon for being able to conduct that interview, and a big thank you to Sooth as well for taking the time. But with all of that said, I think we've postponed long enough, right? Let's get into talking about the top tier of the ECL, our elite division, where the best of the best are going to battle it out, of course, for the highest prize pool that we have, bragging rights as well. And there's always so much to talk about, so much movement, so many changes, and this year perhaps takes the cake for the most important as you get a look here at the current elite division. And what you will notice the most, at least you probably should, no more tunnel vision. The multiple time champions who appeared in both the winter and spring 24 finals, losing the winter championship to then at the time H-Reds in a 7-game set, but then winning over the same team, then known as Valakutanen, in a sweep in the spring campaign. Upon that victory, they decide to go their separate ways, and the primary 6 from the championship squad have mostly evenly split between 2 clubs. We have Exen, of course, formerly known as Jyväskylä, and the newly rebranded Parasite, who you might remember as H-Reds or Valakutanen Esports. Both rosters are incredibly dangerous with a lot of the season predictions that I've seen on social media, having those two clubs as the top two finishers. And of course, as always, we want to hear from you. How do you think the season standings are going to go? Let us know, whether it be in Twitch chat, in the comments section, on social media. Let us know how you think things are going to go. Now, Tunnel Vision isn't the only club that we expected to see in this campaign that ultimately will not be participating. The 9th place finisher from our last spring season Purification, along with our pro champions and Almost Famous, will be missing out on this competition, but that did open the door for some other clubs. And when it comes to a club taking advantage of an opportunity, let's talk about one of them. Let's talk about the Fallon Coal Miners. With a 13th place finish in Winter 24, they survived a relegation series over Gifu Hockey via a sweep, only to drop down to pro regardless due to a roster rebuild, but ultimately after winning a series over Tiki Talk in a 7-game battle, they are back here in the Elite Division. A projected lineup of Strandman and a rookie on left wing. Now, there's been a debate at center as well. Another rookie, I've been told it might be Smake. Hey, I really hope it's Smake. Down the middle, Buffy on the right. It'll be their first Elite season since ECL 8. Of course, Furion, Supremski, and Ellie Kamel backstopping the team. Time will tell what is in store for the Fallon Coal Miners, but at this point, I have to say it is like the old saying, at least in North America, in the case of a nuclear war, the only thing that will be left are Twinkies, cockroaches, and I am adding the Fallon Coal Miners to the list. They just won't go away, will they? For good reasons. I'm not rooting against you, by the way. For good reasons. Up next, let's talk about another team that won't necessarily go away either, always hanging around. It is Goons, a 12th place finish in Winter 24, a 13th place finish in Spring 24 that saw them ultimately lose a relegation series to Mustakalta. They were swept in that series, but they again get back into the Elite Division after a qualifying series. Their projected lineup for this season right now, Takantala on the left wing side, a rookie in Lexa, I believe our second Lexa of the Elite Division. 41 points, though, in 30 games played in pro in Spring 24. Canary is back into the mix after missing the spring season. Sisu and Easy Chas Sniper on the defensive side. And another rookie, the Speedo. Spring 24 pro with Mustakalta. Decent numbers and looking to take that step up. Whenever you have a lineup with a decent amount of rookies, it's always make or break. We'll see what happens with Goons this year. That brings us to, and we might as well keep going alphabetically. Next up, we have Hamo, an 11th place finish in Winter 24, 14th in Spring 24, having to win a relegation series over Ritik, and that's one of the names. If I'm a little bit rusty on some of my pronunciations, apologies for that. We'll be talking about that team a little bit later on, by the way. They were also involved in a qualification series against Goons. They tried valiantly to end up in Elite this season. Wasn't on the cards for them, but maybe sooner rather than later. But back to talking about Hamo. They are another team that had a fair amount of moving pieces over the last calendar year, dating back to Winter 24, with Aro, Nati, Takedown on the way out, Okunku and Tumpi moving over to depth roles, but stepping in, another team with a pair of rookies. Snipery, who was with Tiki Talk in Pro last season, and Hutzi, who was with Mustakalta in Elite last year, but limited to just 4 playoff games. As we said, rookies can make or break a lineup. We will see what happens with Hamo this season. Next couple of teams to mention, Mustakalta, a Winter 24 quarterfinals loss to Renaskor in Pro, a Spring 24 semifinals loss to the Fallon Coal Miners, but they did win a relegation series over Goons to earn their spot here, and we will see what they are able to do. Next up, Mythics, formerly known as Bjerkeleven Esports. They won a Winter 24 qualifying series over Poggers and ultimately finished in 6th in our spring season in Elite with a quarterfinals playoff loss to Tunnel Vision. The team kept the same, but with the addition of Takedown, who comes over from Hamo. It will be Bobby, Vali, Koloslav, Mickey's, Weeducks, and Takedown splitting time with Rico between the pipes. A very interesting team to keep an eye on this season. Keep an eye out on Mythics. Keep an eye out, keep an eye out, keep an eye out. Let's talk about the Polski boys next. Another team with that pro pedigree. Winter 24, they finished in 10th. Spring 24, a little bit of a step back, finishing in 12th. One major change to one of the more consistent lineups as of late, as Tunkelia steps in from Exen to replace JM on the wing. Security in Elite without a relegation series is great, but this is a roster that is certainly looking to take that step up into a playoff situation with, again, Tunkelia now projected on the left with Brokala at center, Saski on the right, Kungin Kirwa on the left side, Vote on defense alongside him, and a goaltender split of Mistari Tiku with Winchester. And you know, I'm sensing a theme here amongst a lot of these teams. A lot of pro clubs as of late have been able to take that step forward and keep their spots in Elite. And we will see if Renascor can be one of those teams. They lost the Winter 24 Pro Final to Gotham Knights in a 7-game series, but did get qualification for the Spring Series. Finished 15th last year and was able to get a relegation series win over the Fallon Coal Miners. So it's been a bit of a tumultuous run for Renascor over the last little bits. 2 new additions, 2 veteran additions to this lineup. Fopa Toflin coming over from the Blackjacks and Martindale from the Fallon Coal Miners. Funny enough, but Virus Active, Motzi, Niambul, and Gresu, technically a rookie. Last time we saw him was in ECL 22 Spring in some playoff games, but was with Supernatural in Pro for Spring 24 and had essentially an 86% save percentage for both the regular season and the playoffs. So definitely a goaltender to keep an eye out on this season. Just so many eyes. I know you only have 2, but you just got to find a way to divert the time. Roots Gaming looked to be another interesting team for the upcoming year. After finishing 15th in Winter 24, they survived a relegation series over Renascor, and then were able to work their way up to 10th in our Spring 24 season. They have the same lineup of Limu, Lexa, Sokolo, Nordsman, and Vodi on defense, Yontes between the pipes. So again, a bit of a rarity to see that much lineup stability. Brings us to the Blackjacks, a team that was kind of known for lineup stability for a good amount of time. Back-to-back 8th place finishes in both the winter and spring seasons, with quarterfinals losses to Tunnel Vision and Valakuitanen. They have seen some changes, though, over the last calendar year. The departure of their original captain, Originalsness, as well as the departures of Fopatoflin, McSavid, and Simbano. But stepping in to fill the gaps, Psycho Skills from Deadly Phantoms, his first season in Elite since Spring 23, while Kosti will man the blue paint, arriving from Besak Pampa. Easy for me to say. Shout out to Kosti, though. The big question mark, and that's where I was getting ahead of myself, it's Villain stepping up to be the center as opposed to his more familiar spot on defense. He'll be between Kermit and Timothy, while Psycho Skills joins Tony on defense. The big question is, with these changes, can they make it back to the playoffs? Can they finally get that first playoff series victory that they've been waiting a very, very long time for? Another one of those teams to get into the Elite division, this one in particular at the last minute, it is Tiki Talk, who will be stepping in for Almost Famous. And you know, we've mentioned them a couple of times now, along with Renascor, you know, these teams that were in these relegation battles that were so close to qualifying in the past. Tiki Talk's going to get that opportunity. But as we look at their lineup, it's an interesting one. Tamex, first Elite action since ECL 9. A rookie in Vale. played ECL Winter 24 with Valko as a depth player. No spring action to speak of. It's party time on the right. First elite action since ECL 9. Savinainen spent spring 24 in Lite. This will be his first elite action since ECL 10. Pensasmies, a rookie, was in Lite for spring 24 with Bushwhackers, and then 2 rookie goaltenders. It's a very interesting lineup to look at. I've seen a lot of people say this will be the team that we don't expect to do well and will finish last. We have seen some crazier things, but it is definitely a lineup that a lot of people are overlooking. I'm intrigued to see what they can do. Again, we have seen some crazy things happen in the Elite Division before. Up next, let's talk about Totarit after a very interesting 24, both winter and spring. For the winter season, they finished in 9th, just outside of the playoffs, but jumped all the way to 4th place in our spring campaign. However, they did lose in the quarterfinals to Exon in a sweep. And again, it feels like a rarity to see the same exact lineup projected, but that is what we are seeing, right? For winter 24 into spring, just Profilipaki and Koloslav carried over, so there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered, but Harlowy, Oyala, Sigasormi, and Stammer not only answered those questions, but again, they made that big jump up. Very intrigued to see how they can do this year. Very much expected to get back into the playoffs, and certainly going to want to make up for the shortcomings of last season. Brings us to our next team. Let's keep it going. Why not? As we have Unwanted. Of course, we heard from Sooth not all that long ago. Unwanted back-to-back 7th place finishes, back-to-back quarterfinals losses to, well, formerly now known as Strikers in a 6 and 7 game series. They bring over Loxon, who was with Purification in Elite last season. And of course, couple of interesting options as well. They bring over Beestrom from Purification, Sundstrom in goal, who was with Gotham Knights and had a 79% save percentage despite that team getting relegated. I'm intrigued to see if those additions are enough, who ends up being in a little bit more of a depth role. Again, Unwanted are just another one of those teams that are looking to take that big time step forward. We'll see if they're able to do so. Vesapampa, of course, still hanging around in Elite. It was another kind of up and down season for them, or set of seasons, should I say. 6th place in Winter 24, losing in the semifinals to Tunnel Vision in a sweep, and then down into 11th place in our spring campaign. And it brings us to the final team to talk about. I mentioned previously known as Strikers. Let's talk about Invincible? Well, time will tell. We'll see if they can live up to their namesake after another disappointing season without an Elite championship, losing in the semifinals in both ECL 24 seasons. Have they finally found the right combination of players? Time will tell. But again, those are the 16 teams in the Elite Division this season. And ultimately, those 16 teams are looking to be one of just 2 that can make it to the finals. Dare we say the live finals, because we will be back at Assembly for a live final on February 20th. Tickets are available as well. Allow me to make sure that I get this accurately here, because we will be taking the main stage on Thursday, February 20th. And as an ECL 25 licensed player, as a license holder, you are entitled to request a free ticket. Again, that is for ECL 25 player license holders. There will be a link in chat and in the description. So again, if you are a player, make sure to join us there. Make sure to join me there. I know I'm making the trip back over this February. Going to be very, very excited to be back. And it's going to be a great time. There was some magic on that stage at Assembly 2 years ago for the not only ECL Elite Division Final, but the World Final as well. And I have a hunch no matter who makes it to the final stage this time out, it'll be a very interesting series. Again, February 20th, live at Assembly. Make sure to get your tickets. Make sure to get that event if you can, and support us. And of course, catch what is guaranteed to be a good series. That's right, I guaranteed it.
Minkä päällä lakukastike maistuu parhaalta? Ei voi tietää, ellei kokeile. Kouvolan lakritsi.
And just like that, practically with a snap of the fingers, we're ready to talk about some Pro Division action as well. Very excited, as always, to see how our second tier plays out. And this season, well, it's left, a little bit of a vacuum here with some of the teams out of the way. Almost Famous, the Fallon Coal Miners. Plenty of teams have playoff experience. Plenty of teams have players with elite experience. Who is going to take that crown now that those spots are open? Who's going to take that step up and earn their way to Elite next season? We will find out. But a couple of the teams, couple of the players that I wanted to mention here, and again, I'm not going to be able to mention everybody, but as always, sportsgamer.gg, we have written articles as well that can go a little bit more in depth than I can here, at least when I have to mention everything going on for this first edition of the show. But let's talk about some of these teams. I want to kick things off with Deadly Phantoms, a quarterfinal loss to Almost Famous in spring of 24. But it is worth noting, a couple of the players that they have with that elite experience. You have someone like RPH, third in goalie wins last season. Profane Kiss was sixth in goal scoring, so Deadly Phantoms always looking to be one of those teams in the hunt to get back to the Elite Division. You have Owned a Hexa as well. Have to shout out Adri. I don't know if you prefer to go by Adrif, but I imagine, I know the name is Adrian. Adri is what I'm going with. Fifth in league scoring last year, fifth in goals with 38. Always going to be a player to keep an eye out on for the upcoming season. You also have a club like Otuksit with a first round playoff loss last season, but they do have players with that experience that we always talk about, whether it be Prasuiti. You have Roysto, who was fourth in goalie wins last year. I was going to say saves. I imagine you were up there as well. And Yukis on defense, who was fifth in scoring amongst defenders last season. We mentioned them a little bit earlier on. You also have the Gotham Knights that you need to keep an eye on for this upcoming season. They were pro champions, winning a 7-game series over Renascore in Winter 24, but finished dead last in Elite last season. But a big addition this year, coming over from the Golden Sticks, it's Lucipro, 9th in scoring, 8th in goals. That might just be the difference maker player to get Gotham Knights back into Elite. Some more teams and names of note. Let's talk about Vizio. They're always going to be in the mix despite a first round playoff loss this past spring. Artuzio, 8th in scoring, always dangerous. Nova, another team that lost in the first round in spring, but you have Nestor, 10th in scoring, 9th in goals last season. Baronizer, and a name I'm always going to keep an eye out for, King of Apes. We'll see how much he ends up playing this season. SSK Esports with Yonta between the pipes, highest save percentage for a starter goalie in pro that is still in pro. Certainly someone who is capable of backstopping a team to success, someone who might get a look at Elite sooner rather than later, one way or another. Zenigime, a team promoted from Light last season. They have MCH, who was in pro and was first in defensive scoring. A big acquisition for them to try and maintain a spot. Refuse to Lose, the latest team to qualify for pro, winning a last-second series this past weekend. Keep an eye out for them. The team name that for some reason I struggle with the most, we have Ritik, a semifinals loss to Almost Famous this past spring. They nearly earned promotion again, as we talked about. They are on the cusp. They have a lot of players with pro and elite experience. They're always going to be dangerous. You have Poggers, who finished 14th in ECL Elite Winter for the 24 campaign. They did lose a relegation series. They had a quarterfinals loss this last spring in Pro, but a couple of dangerous players as always. Getomasi was 3rd in league scoring, 5th in goals. Yakari was 6th in points, and Samilandia 2nd in goalie wins. Keep an eye out on Poggers. They could easily end up back in Elite next season. And the final team of note, No Street Sports, Tapu, Atsas, and Hisa, 2nd in league scoring with 40 goals last year. Again, for every team, there are names to remember. Every team thinks they can be the ones. At least I imagine. Let me know if you're on the team that doesn't think that you can push for a playoff spot, maybe make some magic happen and end up in Elite. But the Pro Division, always exciting, and I'm very interested to see how it plays out this year. Now, before we move on to talking about our next division, we also have something else that we wanted to make note of here, and that is the further emphasis on the ECL Social Program, a new initiative here from us at SportsGamer, trying to get you guys that are on the teams, the players themselves, to focus more on their social media presence to help make these broadcasts that much better. We want to showcase the nastiest goals, the biggest hits, maybe some of your moments that you're not so proud of, but we want to make sure that we can highlight all of that across these broadcasts on social media. So be sure if something happens that you want to showcase for one reason or another, make sure to grab that clip. Make sure to record your games. Do what you have to do. Get those clips to us. We want to spotlight the best content that we can throughout the season, especially, of course, if it takes place away from our featured broadcast. So again, the new ECL Social Program, that new initiative, make sure to get involved. Help us out here to make these broadcasts that much better and to make sure that you get the attention that you need, not just if you're in the Elite Division, but all throughout the ECL. With that out of the way, let's get to talking about the ECL Lite Division, our 3rd tier here for the ECL at SportsGamer. And this is around the time where my familiarity starts to drop, and that's not necessarily something I'm happy with, because as I mentioned with the Pro Division, we know that the Lite Division can deliver some of the best action that you will see throughout an ECL season, although this is certainly the time. You know, Elite Division, hey, some of the names I might still get wrong on occasion. Pro Division, I'm trying to get better. You'll have to forgive me for the Lite Division. Don't be afraid to call me out. Hey, I want to get better. I want to know, but just warning you ahead of time. Let's talk about some of the teams and some of the players to keep an eye out on this season in our Lite Division. Starting off, want to mention on Ace Squad with Deline, who was 10th in scoring last season, 9th in goals. You have Puck Over Glass with a big acquisition from Vitos Vitia, bringing in Kaniko, who was 6th in scoring amongst defenders last year. You have last season's Tier 4 core champions in Koke Esports taking the step up into Lite. Definitely looking for another promotion, I would think. If not, let me know. That would be weird if you weren't thinking you could make it to the next tier. Believe in yourselves. I believe in you. Is that enough? We'll find out. You have a team with perhaps the best logo in the division, Boomers, with a lot of Pro and Elite experience between Zip Player, Jinu, Karki, Datzoni. A lot of players to keep an eye on. Again, so many eyes that you need. It's ridiculous. You have Woodhands with Kukasi, who was 6th in league scoring last year. The previously mentioned on a couple of occasions, Vitos Vitia with another name that, you know, I look at it and then my brain just breaks. But Silicon Timo, 6th in league scoring, 7th in goals. Keep an eye out on them. They also had Yambolo, maybe my favorite name that I've got to say so far today, who was 3rd in scoring amongst defenders. HC Pustertal Esports with some experienced players and a new goalie acquisition in Ruzakuza, who was 3rd in goalie wins with Mites last season. You have the core runners-up as well, the Dara Stars taking a step up, the VBO Stars with some names you'd be familiar with from the Elite Division, Kachin, Ebastion, Bror, and then Also worth mentioning Hockey Holics and Visions, who was 7th in league scoring. I'm always going to miss some teams that probably deserved a shout out. Always going to miss some players. But let me know. Who are you keeping an eye out on in the Light Division this season? And while you let me know that, I will find a new expression to use other than keep an eye out on. It's my preseason 2 here, folks. Now, I mentioned we had a lot to get to here on this broadcast. Before we get to taking a look at the Core Division, we have another SportsGamer-centric announcement here, as it is the introduction of the health and performance program that we want to talk about here. As an ECL 25 player license holder, you are entitled to a free introduction to said health and performance program. Let's take it over to Anna Karin in Espo, who can tell us a little bit more.
Hi everyone and welcome to the SportsGamer Health and Performance Program. Today we introduce to you the whole program. We start with a short workout just to get the body moving, and after that Kenneth and Mirko will discuss the benefits of healthy lifestyle and exercise that also will improve your gaming quality. Ready guys? Yep. Let's get started! Woohoo! Okay, so we open up the chest and we start by rolling down towards the floor. Bend your knees, roll down, and roll up. Yes, we do this a couple of more times. So chin to chest, roll down towards the floor, bend the knees, and roll up. We do this one more time. Okay, so roll down. This is a really nice exercise for the back, for the spine. And then inhale and open up the chest, and exhale round the back. Give yourself a big hug. Let's see. Inhale, open up, yes, and exhale round the back. 2 more times. And when you inhale, you also activate the muscles in the upper back, and exhale round the back. 1 more time. Inhale, open up, and exhale, round your back. Yes. Place your hands on your shoulders and do circles around. Yes, do circles around. You can also slightly bend the knees to get movement for the whole body. Yes. Also bend the knees, sit down a bit, so it's almost a squat. 1 more time. Yes, and then just leave the arms and we sit down in a deeper squat. So we activate the legs, we activate the glutes, and we come all the way up. Continue like this, just sit down, squeeze the heels to the ground, and then come up. Yep. 4 more times. Can you come lower? Yes, good, good, good. 3 more times, so down, and you can feel it in the legs and in the glutes, right? 2 more times, yes, and then 1 more, and up. Something super important is to do twists for the back, so hands to the front, open up the arm to the side, yes, and then to the front, yes. So open up to the side, yes, and then to the front. So open up, you follow, yes, and to the front. 1 more time, open up, yes. So we can also do the twist here. You can bend the elbows and then just do a quicker movement from side to side. How does this feel in your back? Pretty good. Oh yes, it does feel pretty good. I like it too. So just from side to side, do the movement and breathe. 3 more times. 3, 2, and 1. Yep. And then the neck, okay? So relax your face, open up your mouth a little bit, and just do circles around. Yes, so open up your mouth a bit so you make sure that you don't bite your teeth together. From side to side or all the way around. 1 more time. And change direction. Do circles around. We do this one 2 more times. And 1 more time. And then arms to the front, round your back, look for a stretch in the upper back, and then just do movement from side to side. Can you feel the stretch in the upper back? Yes, that's the one we're looking for. And then we do the opposite. We cross the fingers behind the back and we open up the chest. At the same time, you lift your arms up a bit. Open up the chest, and can you now feel the stretch in the shoulders? Yes. Open up, open up. So 1 more time, arms to the front and just round the back and do a movement from side to side. Look for a stretch in upper back. And then cross your fingers behind the back. Cross your fingers and open up the chest. Can you feel a stretch here? Yes, lift up your arms a bit as well. Yes. Good, well done. And then just shake your arms, shake your legs. Last one, just do some rolls, roll around. So you also get some movement for the hip area. Yes, can you maybe feel a stretch in the hamstrings in the back and in the hip flexor in the front? And to the other side, circles around. Yes, 2 more times around. This is the last one. Yes, and then we are done. So, high five. Woo-hoo! Hyvä, hyvä, wow, hyvä. See you.
All right, so that just happened. I'm Ken with SportsGamer, and we're here to talk about the SportsGamer Health and Performance Program. Mirko is here with me to share his side of things. And Mirko, maybe you want to introduce yourself to start with?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Mirko Karainen. Actually, my full-time job is football coaching, but I'm specialized in neuroscience and affecting players and coaches' subconscious mind. And today we are going to talk more about how can you affect your subconscious mind through exercises that you are actually getting better quality of gaming.
Yeah, so as you can see, Mirko is obviously the more qualified person to be here today. And don't worry, you won't be seeing much of me during this program, but I will also be committing to doing the exercises and getting in shape because, as Mirko just said, being in better physical condition will help you with your gaming as well.
Yeah, and especially of moments like actually what we did was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And with those movements, you can actually start by doing them step by step. And when we are going to, let's say example that you are playing NHL and you are top of your form, you are having a peak experiences, you are having your peak performances, you are in your flow stage. You know what I'm talking about in there.
Yeah.
And then you start to play, you play. But have you had an idea that when you have played 3, 4, 5 games in a row that your performance level starts to drop? Have you had that experience?
Constantly. I would say even after 2, 3 games, you really have to make an effort to stay focused. So
yeah,
taking a break or doing a little exercise might definitely help. And like you said, that exercise was easy, but at the same time, I have to say those are not muscles that I use every day. So
yeah.
I think it's very good and important to take care of yourself.
Yeah. What actually happens in our brain that when we are focused like 30 minutes, let's say example that you are playing 2 NHL games, you are using your deep work capacity that you have around 4 hours per day, your deep work capacity. So when you're focusing on 30 minutes really hard on something, you start to actually lose the focus because of the dopamine levels, example, in our brain starts to drop. So when you start to play your 3rd game after 30 minutes, you start to see that you are not really aware of what can you do better to improve your game and get the quality back on the first level. One of the things that you can start by doing is after the 30 minutes, stop. Take control on the ground or on the table. Stand up. do what example we did in here. Go walk to the forest. When you walk for 5, 10, 15 minutes, you actually restart your brain. So when you have played 30 minutes really, really hard, then you stop, go for something else, you actually improve your gaming quality because you let your subconscious mind to work on the things what you can improve. So when you're actually coming back on gaming, you start to see different kind of patterns. You start to evolve your game because you have not stuffed your brain with everything about the NHL. You have actually done something else. And exercise is so good because it actually is one of the most effective ways to restart your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely recognize, say you're playing Hot Champs or FIFA or EAFC Champs games, and you have a losing streak of 4 games, and you just keep losing and losing and losing, and then stepping away from the game and coming back hours later or the day later, and you can have a completely different experience. So I completely buy that. Now, of course, in some situations like ECL games, league games, where you have to play at least 2 games in a row, plus maybe the warm-up, maybe you can't just tell your teammates, oh, I'm going to go for a walk to the forest. But conceptually, I think you can do shorter things between the games, and then of course, think about the big picture when you're talking about hours and hours of gaming, for example.
Yeah. The most important thing is for you to step out of the computer. Imagine this is our gaming set in here. You have your computer or your PlayStation or your Xbox in here. You're sitting in here, you are playing. What our brains is that is focused on just one thing. When you can step out of it, it is enough for you to leave from your desk and actually step out from it and go to different room. Go to your example living room. Go to kitchen and 5 minutes or just a couple of minutes do something else and then come back. It already restarts your brain because your brain doesn't recognize the past, the now moment, or the future. Your beliefs is actually determining what are you thinking, how you are acting, and how you are feeling. So when you remove yourself from the situation that you were just in, you can actually have more quality when you come back.
And probably better self-reflection as well. And I think this is a whole big other can of worms that we won't be diving into now, but maybe you could, in a few sentences, say what happens if instead of stepping to that kitchen or other room or forest, instead you browse TikTok in that meanwhile. I mean, we're all guilty of sometimes, even in the period breaks, you gotta look up a couple TikTok videos. I would assume that has the exact opposite effect.
Yeah, when we scroll down social media, it actually decreases our adrenaline, dopamine levels as fast as playing games. So when you are actually scrolling TikTok, you are having more basically load to the next game that you actually had in the previous game because you have not restarted. So I highly recommend to just step out, do small exercise, because you can start like rewiring your brain step by step. And what are the things, for your opinion, when we go and play the next game, what are the most important thing that NHL players or FIFA players or nowadays FC players, sorry for the audience in there. I'm old school FIFA player, so I'm going to use FIFA still.
I'm sure everybody's got that FIFA EAFC problem for years.
So what are the things when you have stepped it out and then come back and played, what are the things that you are already aware what changes you have made? Have you tried this?
Yeah, I would say the biggest change for me might be mental state. I might be aggravated from losing a game. I might be really pissed off from losing and making a mistake or whatever, and then you just end up in this, what do you call it, like a snowball effect of losing and being aggravated. So I think calming down is like the first thing. And the second thing is usually mid-game when you're gaming, you don't necessarily have time to analyze what you actually did wrong or right.
Yeah.
So stepping away will let your brain either consciously or subconsciously, I would assume, you get to replay that stuff, and it becomes much more apparent what you need to change if you need to make some changes.
Yeah, 99% of our thoughts is in our subconscious mind, so most of the thoughts are coming from our subconscious mind. But in summary, if we go through that, just try it in home. Try it. I will promise you, you will get better at gaming, and you will improve the gaming quality just by stepping back. Stepping back from your own desk, do exercises, rewrite your brain, come back stronger, come back more emotional ready, as you mentioned, to the next game. And I would love to have the feedback also that what have you gained out of this 30 minutes that you have done in your home? What have you gained from this couple of minutes discussion?
Well, I think a lot of confirmation of my own biases and thoughts, and obviously hearing it from you from a scientific background is very valuable. And I think it's important to remember that 90 minutes of focused gaming with a purpose and really focusing on what you do and not getting sucked into the losing or the TikTok or whatever is so much more valuable than 4 hours of mindless gaming. So focusing on what you do, stepping away consciously, whatever you're doing, focus on what you're doing. I think that's at least what I need to focus on more.
Yeah, that's all from my side. I hope in your home, Geno has gained something. And also, from my part, I'm also guilty of not always doing this. So in home, don't feel bad if you're not doing this 100%. Do it 80% of the time, and you will be better player as 99% of other players that are playing the game. I will promise you.
Yeah, thank you, Mirko, and I hope you all enjoyed that little bit of knowledge, and join us for our program.
Yeah.
And let's get a little bit healthier together.
Yeah.
I promise to do it.
Me too.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Minkä päällä lakukastike maistuu parhaalta? Ei voi tietää, ellei kokeile. Kouvolan lakritsi.
We have a couple of players and teams to mention here as we talk about the core division as we look to get things started here for this new season. First and foremost, a club to keep an eye on, Armijan Curry, 4th place finish last season. Certainly going to be looking to take that step up. You have the Cape Town Kings, who had a quarterfinals loss in spring. They have Sambleri, who was 4th in scoring last season, and Kazaster. I hope that's the way you say that name because it's beautiful, who was 4th in scoring amongst defenders last season. Want to make note of the Prowlers, who had a quarterfinals loss last season. Hanu, though, the core leading scorer from last season, is on this team still. So certainly somebody to keep an eye out on. But not only do they have the core leading scorer from last season, they had the winningest goaltender, who also had the top save percentage amongst all starters, Tizieflin. So keep an eye out on Prowlers. Certainly a dangerous team on paper. Panic on ice. Certainly a star player to mention, and that is Pananen. Of course, formerly of the Elite Division, who was 1st in scoring amongst defenders last year. Speaking of defenders, shout out to Sammy on Nameless, who was 3rd in scoring amongst defenders last year. The Carmadillos, tremendous name, rocking Stimperi, who was 2nd in goals last season on HC Palasari. So a big addition for the Dillos, 32 goals in 22 games. And then, of course, our Neo champions from last season who earned that next step up in Dynamo HC, unless it's Dynamo, but Dynamo certainly makes it sound a bit more prestigious, and they deserve that prestige after winning a Neo last season. And speaking of Neo, hey, let's talk about it briefly. And I do mean briefly, of course, because the Neo division is our lowest tier, our entry-level tier here at the ECL. So more often than not, you don't have too many teams that stick around in this bottom tier. Either they're taking that next step up, or maybe saying, okay, maybe that's not quite what we were expecting. Let's regroup a little bit and bring back a stronger team a little bit down the road. But every once in a while, of course, you do have a team that does stick around. And that brings us to Dave Mihet, who had a semifinals loss to Man Cave last season. So go, Dave. We're rooting for you. So was it a perfect return for yours truly to the sports gamer scene? Probably not. Let's be honest. I feel like I'm a little bit rusty, but I promise at the very least, the effort's there, the excitement's there. It is so, so great to be back here again after a season away. Very excited to see how the action plays out. And again, I know I threw a lot at you here for this first edition of the Wraparound, but we are going to be back here every week trying to cover as much as we possibly can. So as we mentioned throughout the video, again, the season kicking off, we have broadcasts Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 1945 CET. That is 1:45 p.m. Eastern for those of you on the North American side of things. And again, as always, sportsgamer.gg for all the information that you need. We have full-on articles out about the ability bands that we talked about. We have breakdowns for each league, the information that you need, again, about our live final in the Elite Division at Assembly on February 20th. Everything that you need to know is there. The EA Social Program, the Health and Performance Program, all that fun stuff, especially the social program, though. Again, I want to make this show as fun as it possibly can be, get as many highlights going as we can, but the bar is going to be high, all right? It's going to be a high standard on here, right? We try to keep things on the up and up, even if, you know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's November, the season's starting. Should probably get this show done. With that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me here again. We'll be back very, very soon. For now, enjoy the action of the opening week as the ECL is back underway. A big thank you, as always, to Kovalon Locracy for sponsoring us here at SportsGamer, and I will see you all very, very soon.
Problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone in progression, it's all that I wanted. A foe in affection, I summon and dub it.